Hello sim gamers, welcome to a new series featuring Cities Skylines 2. In this first episode we found the city of Newhattan Island growing from this to this. The Barrier Island map provides some unique challenges such as exporting water is unreliable given the distance and waterways between our city and the map's edge, and we can expect high traffic demand on the single roadway entering and leaving the island. That said, I'm up to the challenge if you're along for the ride. Be sure to stick around until the end for the beauty shots, and let's get started. Welcome to Newhattan Island. Let's go ahead and zoom right out here and take a look at some of the unique challenges that this map is going to offer. First of all, it's a self-contained island with only one major road in and out. So that means the whole thing is a cul-de-sac to start off with. We'll need to find other ways to add traffic, basically connections for people to get in and out of the island. One possibility is to expand up this direction with a roadway. That could be relatively simple. This gets problematic because the span would just be so long, but I mean, maybe that's a possibility. The other thing to take a note of is that the actual grids that we start off with are very far away from any edge of the map, and in fact the whole eastern side the edge is across the water, so delivering material off here that we could export to the edge of the map, such as water and other materials or other things like sewage and stuff like that, whatever those things we can make a connection to the to off map to sell, are going to be difficult to provide. The only one that's really available to us is electricity. So with that, the first thing I want to do is start taking a look at where my primary road is going to be. So we're going to build a central north-south road, and the shape of this island leans towards sort of building a central, which would essentially be our high traffic roadway right down the middle here between the shoreline and this hillside spine on the seaward side of the island. The other interesting thing is that how this line sort of curves is going to lend itself to some interesting changes in district orientation, grid orientation, and things like that as we move through. Here is the airflow map. Thankfully, we get access to this right away. So as you can see, our atmosphere, zoom in a little bit, make it a little easier to see, across the whole island is generally blowing east to west, or at least southeast to north. I'm sorry, west to east, blowing southwest to northeast. And what that tells me is I want to divide my island so that the industrial work is done over on this side, so that any pollution is sort of taken away from the citizenry, and be conscientious of certain areas. So this area, to start off with, for some of our major, some polluting efforts isn't bad, because this pollution would be carried off sort of in this direction where we don't think our populace is going to be. So I'm drawing a mental line that basically, along this shoreline, is the divider between our dense population and open country. The other constraint we want to take a look at is the water situation. We do have some freshwater deposits, but since this is an island, we can actually pull any water we need from the shoreline. But we do want to take a look at the currents. On this side of the map, the current generally comes from north to south, but it does carry water into this area and sort of pools up and stops here. So we want to be cognizant of that. This area tells me this area is pretty terrible for any sewage, because it's going to tend to pull that sewage potentially into here, causing any fresh water that we pull out of here to be problematic. Obviously, we don't want our sewage to be north of our fresh water, generally speaking, so we're going to avoid that, which tells me that down here is sort of the best place to drop off our sewage, knowing full well it's just going to tend to collect in here. And although this groundwater supply is close, I think that tells me I'm not going to rely on this groundwater source for any reason. So let's get to laying out with those constraints, let's get to laying out our central grid. I'm going to build a north-south road and then connect it up with an east-west road and get our initial grid prepared. Here's a comment from Burr about one of my other video series featuring Sailwind. Seems like a good game, too bad my laptop can't run it due to only having 4 GB of RAM. Well, Burr, hopefully you can enjoy some Cities Skylines 2 through this Let's Play. Now it's your turn to leave a comment. What is your favorite map in Cities Skylines 2 and why? So there is a little bit of grading issue that I want to take care of here. You can see that these roads are starting to bend over and tip in strange directions. But since it's relatively mild, what I can do is grab the level terrain tool. I'll keep the default settings for now. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn down the sensitivity to 25. I'm going to grab this level from here and sort of just make sure that this pad, as I build it out, is able to maintain level really all along here. So here is our completed starting grid. This gives us a bunch of space to expand on to begin with for the start of the city. We're going to be building our industrial stuff on this area and sort of eastward from there. Our commercial zones will essentially build along Main Street. This is largely a mobility street to get people into town and distributed along the north-south roads. This is our major north-south road, so most of our commercial zone is going to tend to build along here. And then residentials and other services on the west side of, where does this end up being, Walnut Street? If you want to have a particular street and keep it segregated as its own street without looping it around, you have to maintain a little bit of a sort of a tail on the road to do that. So let me just sort of do that really quick here. I'm going to extend this a little bit further and get this joined back up. And now our main street is Walnut Street. Our entrance street is Robin. That goes straight through. And there we go. Let's get our basic services delivered. So over here we had talked about having this sort of power distribution setup available on this side of the world. So I think I'm actually going to go ahead and create just a service road off of this roundabout where I can pin some of the, any of the, hopefully the power distribution and things that I want to build in the area. I could also build it here, but again, or use this area, but again, polluting resources will then sort of push that air through part of my populace, and I want to avoid that. Initially, we're going to have to buy our power from the grid. We could put down a small coal power plant. One of my goals is to get to a balanced budget relatively quickly. So we now have power supplied. Our next consideration is going to be water. I had mentioned placing water off of here, which I think is the best course of action. This can be placed offshore as much as possible because any upgrades that are available to the system are on the tile. Now we can go ahead and we'll extend our major road here in this direction. It'll, you know, probably connect up to stuff at some point. And we'll just run the road off there for now. That connects water to our city. Now for the sewage treatment. This hillside right here, no, I want sewage treatment to be as far away from these people as possible. So I'm going to go around this hill and provide sewage treatment sort of over here. Or in fact, I can use this roundabout, or maybe even just an easement road off of here. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make a little access road that comes off of here and perhaps ends, you know, in that area. For over the side sewage treatment, let's grab this little spot here. Actually, I want to, yeah, this one. So the reason I'm putting this inshore as much as possible, contour lines? Yeah, that'll work. Not on shoreline, just on shoreline. So I'm adding this because any upgrades we add on to, or these upgrades to help with processing, are going to be attached to the side of the building. So that tells me I probably want to have my roadway start like here, if possible. And we'll just bend it off this direction. And in no particular clean order. Get it joined up. What I could do is just make that a little bit nicer by turning back on my snaps now that I've gotten a little distance. Use the turning tool, which will generate a nice curve. And the slope of that isn't very bad. So we have all of our basic services connected. Let's start populating this city and watch it grow. Really, we can just lay down a huge portion of what we're going to do. I do want to reserve some space in here probably for some additional services that, you know, anytime you're laying down a new city, there will be additional services you'll have to add along the way. So I'm going to leave some space. Maybe I'll leave space here. I'm going to leave these four open actually for any services. So that means I can paint down along this way. Actually, this is Main Street. I'm going to leave these four open here. And I miszoned that I didn't want to. This is going to be commercial space. Leaving those open intentionally. I'm not going to block in the full amount of commercial space that people are asking for here because I want to have a little bit of divider. Again, we can have some room in here for expanded uses. Let's drop down our Main Street commercial space and then plop in some industrial use. So as you can see, we're starting to stall out on our expansion. Oh, here we go. Milestone 1 unlocked. It's beautiful timing. Your efforts are bearing fruit and your city has taken its first steps towards success. Congratulations. That gets us 600,000 city bucks, 2 development points, and 3 additional land parcels we can potentially purchase. And we have a new signature building available, the Rock Musician Mansion. A famous rock star lives in this mansion when not on tour. So part of this is capitalizing on our rewards. We do, however, have to worry about some new services. So that's the next problem we're going to solve. Our loan limit has been increased. We have access to the map tiles tool. We have access to our city budget. We can take a look at our city statistics, and we have access to medium density housing, which people will be asking for. Our first iteration of those being row housing. Various roads, variations for our medium roads and some bridges. New services we got to consider now: health and death care and garbage management. And these are services that people will begin to use now that they're on the map. So it's a good thing I kept some space open because we have some interesting rewards we can work on. Our population is growing quite fast. And the additional tiles are really going to help us because there's a lot of demand for industrial space and a lot of space to put industrial work down. So we're going to put a pin and a pause on that and start working on some of our additional services that we do need to worry about. Actually, I'm not going to work on that just yet. I'm going to take a look at this reward that I got. We have a Rockstar's Mansion that we can put down somewhere. And this is my first opportunity to do something a little bit different. I could just throw it on the road here, right? We already have it gridded out. But this is going to be a famous person. I want to give them sort of a unique location to work with. So we get into a little bit of decoration and beautifying and taking our time enjoying some of how this game works. If I want to preserve this existing grid and maybe use it in the future, I can do something like this. Grab the complex bend tool, complex curve, bring it out to here. Actually, this is gonna seem like a 90-degree curve, but that's not actually a 90-degree curve. If I bring it out to here, which I believe is the halfway point. Actually, I don't want it to be that far. I want it to be here. Bring it out to here, which is the halfway point, I believe. Yes. We end up with a sort of interesting curve here, and then we can give this house that or this area that we've just made, a straight road to the end, and tack on a little roundabout that's not really interrupting all that much of the zoning going on around here. There's some interruption around here, but that's okay. So we've got this Rockstar Mansion going on right here. I'm going to put that down, and later on we're going to come back around and give this a decorate. But we have a nice little interesting area here. And the benefits of the Rockstar Mansion is that we're adding +2 well-being to everyone within 500 meters. And if you recall, our grid size is 248. So that's everyone basically currently, with the exception of people out here, everyone in the city. And we are unfortunately starting to see some of those services being demanded by our citizenry for death care. And I'm glad I left this area open because it might be a natural location for us to put our graveyard. So let's go ahead and just do that. We'll get our graveyard, our death care situation taken care of. So this is interesting. We could actually orient it on a major street, right? But I like to orient mine on side streets. And because I happen to know the layout of how the expansions on this particular, well, I'll just show you. I've placed this where I have rather than perfectly centering it because of the expansions that are available to this. So one is a temple, which makes it a place of well-being, granting another 300 well-being to people within 300 meters. Can be placed, anywhere along here. And then we have a mausoleum, which just increases the attractiveness of the graveyard. Can be placed anywhere along here. So you can see the size of the mausoleum. It's a 5x6 or a 6x6 item. And this is a, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8x8. Yeah, an 8x8 item. So I just made sure there was enough room for those. A hearse should be going along and taking care of that person soon enough. I guess while we're at it, the other resource that people will be asking for is for healthcare. Healthcare is an excellent thing that we can place along basically the space that we reserved in our commercial district. I am going to go ahead and place it right in the middle here, so I want to see what the expansion options are. So this is a 3x6 expansion option for additional capability in that clinic. And hypothetically, if I did that, what would that leave? That would leave a 7 over there and a 6 over here. Actually, I think this is just a fine place for that. The other expansion is an expansion that does not change the lot's footprint, granting a covered garage. Okay, let's see if we can't get ourselves to milestone 2. But in order to do that, I need some more space to work with. So I'm going to expand down this direction. Yeah, if I go down here, I can get more residential in. I have much more room for industry. And how about that one? So the purpose I bought these particular places is to, once again, take a look at our expansion capabilities to service our citizens' needs. This industry is sort of backing up against this hillside here. We have a sort of spot available over here, and we have a little bit more depth and stuff available over here. I think what I'm going to do is, actually, we have to worry about recycling, and it looks like this area would be fine to start off with for managing our waste management. You notice that basically based on our contours, we have this kind of little box right here. So I'm going to move my recycling out a little bit further and just use the fact that these contours define a relatively natural box. We'll go back in and clean up this area to get it squared off. But once again, if we take a look at our contours, this is a perfectly fine area to contour this into. And we have a little bit more space here to work with and things like that as our needs grow. Okay. I've been rambling on for a little while, and we still need to increase our city to get it to a size 2. Let's go ahead and build out some more grid for our citizenry to work with. So I'm paying attention to this terrain here. It's hard to see, going to be hard to see on YouTube, and I apologize for that. But this contour line, you know, it's a fairly gentle rise. It's not a steep rise or anything, but I want to be conscientious of the amount of grade this is going to introduce. But it's these type of landscape challenges that actually gives the map some interest. Oh, and I've done something I forgot I was going to do. So I want to actually follow the shoreline over here as this grid changes. So we're going to destroy all this we just built. Congratulations, us. And then work on utilizing this new orientation for our major north-south road. But before I was able to do that, we made milestone 2. We made it to Small Village. Congratulations, you are moving ahead very nicely. We got another 700,000 city bucks. Two of our upgrade points, and 4 more parcels that we can purchase. Our loan limit has been increased. We now have access to taxation, which will go a long way towards balancing our budget. Medium density housing is available. Education and research, including elementary and high school, so we'll have to take education into consideration here in the near future. And with that, we're going to call this episode to a close. Tune in next time when we actually try and solve some of these issues that we've just created, expanding our city, laying down some educational resources, and balancing the budget. Until then, I'm Sim Gamer, and this has been City of Skylines.